What's happening, everybody? It's your man Dame the NYDC. Two mics up, back again, brand new episode. It's Monday night, and we're going into the holidays, and I think we're starting to feel good. Some of us, some of us prefer the holidays more than others, and you know, around this time we were having a meeting, and we was watching a couple of shows on TV, and you know, I seen his face, and this gentleman was on. And this was fairly new movie. I want to say 2022. I don't know if you are familiar. I believe it was called Look Accidentally. Um, this gentleman was on. I was like, man, this guy, man, he looks really familiar. And I'm gonna take a shot. Want to reach out, see if we can get him on. And my wife is talking. She's like, you should know who that is. He's on General Hospital. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a daytime soap guy. But however, things work out, and we have the pleasure of being joined by this fine actor and gentleman. And I've talked to him, and y'all probably like looking like, how I like to tease a little bit. Guys probably like, Dame, who you talking about? So I'm going to bring this gentleman to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to Marc Anthony Samuel. Marc, how you doing this fine Monday evening?
Doing great, Dame. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
It's totally our pleasure. And, for those who, like me, sometimes a little naive, not really into daytime soaps, because you've really been really honing your craft for a while. But before we get into that, take a moment and please introduce yourself to our audience and give us a little background about who you are and where you're from.
Okay, let's see. My name is Marc Anthony Samuel. I am a native Chicagoan, and I consider myself very much an Oregonian.
Okay.
As it was the state from which I moved. Live in Los Angeles, or outside of Los Angeles, I should say, but it's my home base, and have been an actor for a good long time now.
And this is true, and I will say we can say veteran. And when I really started diving in, you are truly, I don't want to say a jack of all trades, but you really are one of the hardest working people that I've seen, because as ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear that voice, you've probably heard him in video games, different things that we're going to talk about. But I want to start first by asking Marc, when you think back, what was it that made you want to become an actor? Like, what was that spark?
Well, it was kind of it wasn't one moment in particular. It was kind of a combination of different moments. My late father, used to be a stage actor back in Chicago. And it was from him and through him that I got the first bug. I would watch him in plays that he would be doing in Chicago. And then there was going to the movies with my mother and seeing things and always knowing that I wanted to be a part of the feeling that I was getting from watching these things, if it makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
And with my father, I was only 5 years old, but I could recognize that on the proscenium, that line of demarcation between us, the audience, and what's going on stage. I understood it, but I knew that I felt like I should be over there. I saw my father on stage. I realized it was my father, but I realized he was playing a character. And I understood that early on. And I kind of knew that in order to be a part of the world on the other side, I had to figure out what the key was. And that was, becoming an actor, learning how to act, learning how to be a part of the story.
And that's great, because that really leads into my next question too. Then, so where did you go, or where did you start to really start honing those skills and into what we see today?
Okay. Well, in my case, I was a late bloomer. I went through, I'd known it was something I'd wanted to do all my life. And like like a normal human being, you sometimes are afraid of the thing that you want to do most.
Mm.
And so you put it off, or you procrastinate, or you rationalize yourself out of it. You convince yourself that while you want to do it, maybe you'll do it one day, maybe this. And I went through high school and college. And I got to say, I mean, prior to that, I had my father was also instrumental in getting me started in moving in the right direction.
Hmm.
Even though the school in the town to which we moved from Chicago was a very rural community. It was
Right.
nothing like Chicago. They didn't have a lot of the access to the arts,
Right.
to the theater. The two
Hmm.
things I wanted to do in my life more than anything was to be a track and field athlete and act. And at
Wow.
the school to which we went didn't have a track, didn't have a stage. And so it was kind of like my dad stepped up and was like, "Son, if you say you want to act, I know you talked about it. I've been talking about it since I was 5." And he's like, "Let's go do a play together." And I was, "Okay, let's go do a play."
Hey.
And so my very first thing I did was a community college production of The Music Man.
Wow.
And my father and I both did it together. And it's one of my
Awesome.
fondest memories. You know, it was my first time actually being on stage. He taught me all sorts of stuff on the fly.
Wow.
You know, not only stuff within the scope of acting, but around it. Like you're gonna have
Mm.
people that parade their insecurity through bragging
Yeah.
about what they've done and who they know. And my dad taught me a lot in a very short amount of time on that
Wow.
project. And so that same community college was also the place that I ended up training for my track and field uh, stuff. And thankfully, I had that because I got around some collegiate trainers, and that helped me go on to Oregon, University of Oregon, where I
Oregon.
went to college, and I ran track there and kind of put off acting for years. And then when I
Wow.
graduated, I got sick and tired of hearing myself say I wanted to be an actor, that I walked into another community theater, which
Right.
was right across from a part-time job I had. And I remember leaving a note for whomever was in charge saying, "Hello, my name is Marc Anthony Samuel," because this is before cell phones and
Right.
all that stuff.
Right.
I said, "My name is Marc Anthony Samuel. I'm this tall, I'm black, and I will play anything." You know,
that's that's how you do it, man.
that's it, you
Open
know,
those doors for yourself, right?
and what happens is once you make that decision, especially if it's something in your heart, which you want to do,
Hmm.
the doors open.
Right.
You start note, or the doors were there, but you start noticing. It was like you think red car, and then all of a sudden you see a bunch of red cars.
Right.
I thought I want to be an actor, and all of a sudden I saw the opportunities and things I could do to help make myself better or give
Man.
myself a better opportunity.
That is so awesome because you know, and that could, and this is just me listening. That probably played a part though, even now with your longevity throughout the things that you ventured into, TV, film, video games. But to get specific, your role on General Hospital. If I'm correct, you've been. It's been 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Man, that's amazing. First of all, um, but what is it like, or what was it like? First of all, when you got the call, and then your preparation for the role. Like, what was that like?
Well, what was funny is when I originally was auditioning for General Hospital, I was at a place where I was traveling a lot, kind of doing a lot of things I hadn't done before. Um, I had just gotten out of a relationship a few years prior, and I was like just trying to be a happy person and trying
Mm,
to take that time to experience things, like say yes to my friends when they had something that, hey, we're going to go do this. You should join
mm,
us. Okay.
mm,
Hey, we're going to do bowling league. You should join us. Okay. And I was just doing a lot of that. And that started manifesting into international trips. And my schedule started getting kind of full
right.
with, acting and with taking trips and doing my thing. And I was on my way to Barcelona, in fact,
Hmm.
when I got the audition through my management. And I'd never originally wanted to be on a soap opera. I had,
Really.
like some people, a stereotype or an idea, a preconceived notion as to what it
Hmm.
meant to be on daytime television.
Hmm.
I saw it as, schlocky stories and what I perceived to be kind of like hyper realistic, over the top drama. And I thought,
Hmm.
I don't know if I want to be a part of that. I want to be this thing. I don't want it to mess up my career. That's what I
Right.
said.
Right.
And one of my best friends said to me, "Well, you kind of got to get a career first before you before you mess up a career." And it was echoed by one of my acting teachers as well. So I after a while, I came to my senses, put my ego aside,
Mm.
went in for the call back. And then I knew I was on my way to Barcelona. So I was like, okay, I'll do this and I'll get out. We'll do this whole thing and I'll be able to go to Barcelona and do my thing. Well, after I finished my producer session, they scheduled a test for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go to the studio to do a test with one of the actors on the show, who ended up being one of my really good friends and a person with whom I worked a lot on the show in the early years.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I finished doing the test read, there are times as an actor you kind of know when you've clicked in something.
Right.
You never know if you actually have a job. That's not
Right.
really up to you.
Right.
And I've had plenty of jobs where plenty of opportunities where I've auditioned and I would have bet money that I was the guy and I didn't get
You
it.
want a guy, uh-huh.
It's just part of the thing, to this day, you never
Right.
know. But when I finished that, I knew. And I think part of it was I wasn't so focused on, God, I need the job. And I've never been the kind of person that's been, God, I need the job, because I don't think
Right.
that's a healthy place to be. You
Right.
do your best, you hope for the best, and you have other means by which you keep your
Right.
flow going.
Right.
But I finished that and I walked out and I was like, that felt really good. Okay, well, I'm going to Barcelona. And so they
And
called me and said, we want to hire you. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic.
but
When do we start? And it was the starting time was at the end of my trip when I was already back in the
wow.
US.
Wow.
But they said, you got to come in for a fitting on this day. And it was right in the middle of the trip. So I
Oh.
didn't end up going to Barcelona. And it would have been a nice trip too. It was,
Hey, but it worked out.
it worked out.
It
Look,
worked out.
and I'm grateful. Look, I can go to Barcelona some other time. It's like, I didn't come to Los Angeles just to leave Los Angeles and go on trips. I came because I wanted to do television and film. And
Right.
this still is the best place to do it.
You end up a lot about that. And speaking of that, even in your role, right?
Mm-hmm.
I, I'm curious to know because not to say I'm an actor, but I think we all have some type of actor in us. We all like to, and me especially. Like I'm a New Yorker, we're characters by
Yep.
trade. So,
Yep.
and sometimes when you get in the role, but now that you've been playing a nurse for so long, like,
Mm-hmm.
have you like maybe over time maybe taught yourself anything about nursing or had any curiosity about nursing?
I have a great deal of respect for nursing, but I had
Okay.
that before I started.
Mm-hmm.
I it's it's make believe at the end of the day.
Right.
I've learned more stuff about medicine through studying to do medical billing and
Okay.
through my studies in college, and it's like, which can help make a scene look more realistic. But
Mm-hmm.
the reality is, a scene serves purposes for moving a story along. It's not
Right.
necessarily to educate people on the accuracies and minutia of the medical field. So
Right.
as far as General Hospital goes, no, I haven't. I mean, I know how to wear scrubs really well, and I got my that kind of thing. But that's about it, man. That's about it.
So I have to ask that too, because
Mhm.
I've always been curious too. I've had a couple other guests on that, are entertainers too. And, you know, obviously, like you said, that wasn't your main goal originally to be on TV.
Right. Well, to be
But
on daytime TV,
or
yeah.
daytime TV, I'm sorry. And I want to clarify that. And that's kind of where I'm going. Now doing it though, and I don't know if this is a silly question or not, but your druthers, would it be, because I know you've been on like NCIS and some other things, but to
Mhm.
be on a maybe a primetime show or to continue being on the big screen, like which one really kind of draws your inner Mark to really perform, or does all of it? I know you want
All
to
of
give
it.
your best, all of it. Okay,
All of
well
it.
if you had your druthers though.
If I had my druthers, if somebody said write what you want
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it'll be,
Mm-hmm.
I would say I want to go where the most interesting stories go. I want to
Mm.
go where the most kind of left of center, off,
Mm.
off center characters go.
Mm.
people, the industry's changed a lot. And
Right.
and and when I started in the industry, we were kind of relegated as black men, for example, to a very few kinds of characters. You're either, you know, you're like, trench town, you're on the street and you're trying to do whatever you got to do to survive.
Right.
You're a gangbanger,
Right.
or you're like this, you're a desexualized kind of, or asexualized, not desexualized, but just like you're 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 a comic relief, but completely nothing
Yeah.
else. You just fill that kind of void.
Right.
And it we've had some amazing actors take those roles and make symphonic music out of it. Amazing
True.
performers that have taken their skills
True.
and elevated the work beyond the expectations of those who wrote it, who probably
True.
didn't really have the same experiences of the characters they were writing. And that happens a
True.
lot too, even to this day. But
Mm.
I wanted to be able to be the nerd that
Mm-hmm.
that likes listening to P-Funk, that likes to skateboard sometimes, that likes anime, that likes to travel, that's interested in language, like whatever's in my head, whatever I
Right.
wanted to be, specifically be that. And I wanted
Mm.
there to be room for that. And now there's
Right.
a lot of room for it because we've had some amazing programming coming out that show us in a full spectrum of all the things
True.
that we
True.
have always been. It's not new. It's
True.
just TV now has room for it, thanks to Donald Glover, thanks to, uh, every you see people on Abbott Elementary, they
Yeah.
run the gamut.
Great show. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great show. Great
amazing
show.
show.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we have that kind of programming, the TV show Dave,
Mm.
there's a lot out there
Yeah.
that tells more of our story in the spectrum that we are as human beings.
Mm. Yeah.
That's the story I want to follow, where I can be these multi-hyphenate described people in a circumstance that isn't common on the screen. You
Mm.
know, I want to be able to have the indie film where I'm a substitute teacher, like what's his name, Ryan Gosling played a teacher who had a drug addiction, but
Yeah.
really cared for the kids.
Yeah.
It's just that story should be able to be told regardless of your ethnic background.
Very well. That's true. And I like that part because you talk about because I listening and now it really makes sense to me because the creation part is very important to you,
Mhm.
and I really like that, and I think we really need more of that. Um, to me, because I see a lot of these remakes, and like to me, is this is we've become very stale,
Yeah.
and I'm curious to know, like from your standpoint, like what is the challenge? Being in Hollywood or being around, maybe writers and producers, like what's the fear or what's the challenge? Like you said, bringing that creativity to the forefront because
Well,
we just
yeah.
don't see it anymore.
Yeah. Well, what I think, well, first addressing the whole concept of remakes, the concept of Hollywood as a business industry is to get as much money as possible
Okay.
and to continue having that money come in.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, you have a lot of business majors and lawyers running or intersecting with the creative community that is Hollywood.
Right.
They would rather do a tried and true formula in order to amass money,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to let's try this experiment.
I see what you're
Now,
saying.
if the aforementioned experiment makes a lot of money, just happens to be a popular film, then you're going to see 800 copies of that thing
Right.
without much of the soul, but
Right.
the idea. Because
Right.
then the program, the concept, the idea, which has been probably turned down tens of hundreds of times by different producers and studios. As soon as they find somebody, the voice is heard, they create
Mm.
something and it resonates with a lot of people, and everybody goes and sees it, then they're like, we need another blank. We need another one
Right.
of those.
Right.
And so when you see the remake, you're seeing business ahead of creativity.
Ah.
When
Yeah.
you see sequel, you see business
Mm-hmm.
ahead of creativity or taking risks, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, there are experts in particular fields, but no one can predict what people are going to love and want at that moment. And
Right.
so, to the little man, of which I am part, we have to keep grinding and trusting our own instinct and keep making what our own thing
Mm-hmm.
and working in our own voice, and just
Right.
realize you'll find your tribe, whether it's locally, nationally, or internationally. You'll find the
Right.
people that get what you're saying and they come see your project or they
Mm,
support you, you know?
mm.
And
That's
that's
so right.
that's kind of where I'm at right now, where it's like you just be who you are, whatever it is you are, and work hard and you'll find your people.
Mm.
Don't try to be the next blank, because that blank has already been filled,
Right.
you know?
So true. So true. I love that, man. And you know, I hear it like the creativity and everything, say the travel,
Hmm.
keeping yourself busy. Um, how do you at the end of the day, like it's gotta be a struggle. And I think even for all of us who are not uh, in your arena or on your schedule, but like how do you find the balance between TV, film? I don't want to leave out the video games because I was you're doing voiceovers and video. Like, how do you find that balance to one keep I don't want to say keep your sanity because it can be stressful.
Hmm.
Uh, but to be able to keep a balance and even keel and still be creative.
Honestly, I've had the good fortune of being in the company of a lot of creative people that are
Mm-hmm.
whom I call friends.
Mm-hmm.
My writing partner is one of my best friends. He and I like come to work with a particular goal in mind for how we want to express on our stuff that we do. And then you get around artists like when I get the opportunity to these days to go back into the studio and work on GH or whatever show I'm working on. If you work around enough people that are impassioned about the storytelling, about the work, about the below the line stuff, the crew, the people who are doing lighting, if you guys kind of align yourself as a team, the work itself can be a respite too. It's not just I
Mm.
have to work, I have to get this done, but it's also there's a joy in it, which
Right.
kind of keeps you energized and motivates you to do other stuff.
Right.
As far as the different medium of entertainment, like whether it's a commercial or a TV show or a film, in my head, it's all the same thing. It's an
Mm.
opportunity to do storytelling. It may be abbreviated within a 30-second commercial. It may be in the form of just my voice on a video game or a voiceover, but there's always a
Mm.
place where you can create. And in that, I find a space of also ease and comfort and relaxation. And then in between that, it's just about exercising, taking your vitamins, getting some sleep, making sure that you have other means to keep yourself busy, because
Mm-hmm.
there are times where you will go through periods where you're not working. And
Right.
it's not because you're not a good actor. It's not because you don't have anything to offer. It's just as business goes, sometimes you hit a trend, a wave, and then the
Right.
wave dies down. And then you pick up another wave eventually and you ride that,
Mm.
It's just
It's
nature of the beast.
so I'm curious this because so you said earlier so you ran track and you do you still run track? Is that something that you still keep in your routine?
No, man, that was
No.
that was part of my life for so long. And
Uh-huh.
like the extent of my track and field exploits has now been reduced to just how I work out in the gym. I still do my
Gotcha.
track and field workouts, minus the 400-meter kind of keep in shape type endurance sprints. I don't do any of that, and I'm not leaping and jumping into a sand pit anymore. So we just keep it in terms of the weights and the endurance exercises.
And that's what's up, man. Look, Mark, this has been a great conversation. And as we're coming towards the back end and close out, I have to ask, what is next for you that you can share or talk about, or something you want to put into the universe.
Okay,
Uh
let's see. Well, I have we're doing post production on this horror film called The Other Kind, which has been directed and written by my friend Mary Russell.
okay.
Uh, don't know have an end date as to when that's coming out. You can actually, as you've already caught me, you can catch me on Love Actually on
Uh-huh.
Amazon Freevee.
Mm-hmm.
You can also catch me on Lifetime in the film A Sister with a Secret. That's running right now. My writing partner Nardeep Kurmi and I are putting together stuff for our show that we simply call Nardeep. Mark and
Okay.
Nardeep have a show, and as more of that comes out, we'll make sure to get that put out there. But that's kind of a sketch
Mm-hmm.
sketch comedy that we've been writing and directing and creating and putting out there. And yeah, so just keep an eye out.
I mean, we sure will. And look, we will stay in touch. If there's anything that you have that we can help share, with our audience as well, man, we would love to. It'd be our honor and our pleasure to do so. I think you're doing great work, and continued success to you, Mark, and everything that you do, man. And
Thank you
ladies
so
and
much.
gentlemen, please make sure you go out and you support Marc Anthony Samuel. And before that, I can't let you go, because if they're gonna support, we need your social media, so everybody can go out and support. We're gonna drop it in the notes so they can make sure they get all that information as well.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. If you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter and Instagram accounts are both the same name, and that's at MarcAsart, at Mark as Art. So follow if you'd like, but more importantly than following me, support us in our work and stuff. If there's something you love and you see it, tell friends, man. Word of mouth is the best way to go. We'll do our part to keep you entertained, and just let people know if you really like it.
Well, we will do our best, Mark, to make sure that we help spread the word, man.
Right on.
Thank you so much. I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate you for joining me today and this evening, and our audience, man. Like I said, continued success.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, so that's another one in the books here on Two Mics Up. And before I go, I don't want to forget, I want to take a quick second to pause for the cause to thank our advertising sponsors, and we'll be right back after this short commercial. All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode in the books. Stay tuned, and you can follow Two Mics Up online at www.twomicsup.com. Too many W's, but you know what I meant. You can follow us across our social media, IG, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Two Mics Up. And if you are still watching this on YouTube, that's fine. That's great. But now we are on Mogul TV. You can go to the moguls.tv to catch all the latest from me and Two Mics Up and all of our other Mogul TV mates. So stay tuned for more. And like we always do at this time, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out. 007.